right, I think we're gonna go ahead and call this to order because it's 4 o'clock and we need to get rocking and rolling. We have a long, agenda today. First of all, I have no cards from anyone making public comments. Is there anyone here that wants to do that? Okay, super duper. All right, well, we are, unfortunately losing some of our track members this month due to turning out, so I am going to, I guess, turn that over to you. Are you doing the presentation? Sherry's going to. I am? You going to be Vanna?
Well, we have a number of track members, as you know, that are retiring or temporarily suspending their membership. Maybe they'll come back, I don't know. Rebirth. And then some of them are not here.
I know, I almost wonder if we should
Nancy.
Nancy
Give you.
Oh, Nancy, nice.
Should I pour her? I think Loretta's going to be cutting our cake too when she gets, when she gets everything set
I get
up.
the
So
best
you
stuff.
go ahead and be grabbing cake as we do this.
First one? Eugene Blanchard.
Yay!
Yay!
Oh, wow, beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Then you get your pass, and then a lovely bag.
Thank you.
And then also, Ms. Lori Thomas.
Yay!
Thank you for your service on track.
Should we take a photo?
They even got my name
Yes.
still.
Oh.
Yes, we should take a photo.
Why don't I get out of the way and you two can be side by side and get taking a photo.
Oh, they want a photo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get out of the way. And then you guys can get,
Or do you want to come, we can go up in front of the signs, the track committee.
Whatever you like.
Maybe she just goes stand by the cake.
Oh, we should take a picture of the cake too.
Yeah, because if I get near it, I'm gonna cut it.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Yeah, and then Bruce is going to butcher it. So,
Oh, yeah, we want to see it.
Butcher special thing. How was that? It's very scary with that little plastic server. Did you get to see it?
Oh, wow, that is beautiful.
And we have to cut it up.
Ah.
I did.
Oh, wow. Is that one of those ones where you give them a photograph and they can put that on there? Or?
Like each other? Oh, should I photo them? Yes.
You know what? The way that the slide is showing, it's shining on your portrait, and it looks kind of funny in the picture. Take a look at the picture. The way that
It looks like he's got a
looks like there was a dot on his forehead. Look at oh, did it come out okay? Okay, good. For a minute, maybe you moved that way then.
It's behind, his head is behind.
All right, okay.
It was right on his.
Yeah, I saw it too. You saw it too.
Yes.
Yeah, look at the forehead. Yeah, see, I saw that. You saw it too. Late there too.
Yeah, you really have to retake it.
Yeah, I retake it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta go back. By standing in front of that, it created a funny
We
aura.
can't even.
It looks like you're balding, basically.
Can't even Photoshop it.
It looks, yeah. Maybe it's on the side or something.
Over here?
Yes, no, you can't put the flag, just make sure it's not sticking out of his head or something.
Yeah, the way the projector
Yeah, it was.
It was like right here.
Yeah,
Like,
I
you have like a
yeah,
light
I
bulb
saw
right
that,
on
yeah.
his forehead. Like, I have a bright idea.
There you go. That was funny though.
Now they got Mark on the back.
There you go. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Elaine.
Yes,
Much better.
That's my production side of me, I can't help it. I really want to thank everybody that's worked so hard for the last couple of years, and some of us a little bit longer, and really put in the time and effort to not only assist the board, but assist staff. I mean, that's really why we're here, is to be able to give them feedback and input from a writer's standpoint, and it makes the track a very important committee. Certainly, and I've seen a lot of that in the board. I asked Brad to allow me a couple of minutes to report back from the board meeting, just like I'm here and take a report to the board meeting from track. I kind of want to report back. And last month was a really marathon board meeting. What was that, a 3.5-hour board meeting or 4.5?
Yeah.
It went on over one issue, and the issue was that the board committee had recommended the purchase of diesel buses, and with further investigation and effort on the on the staff's behalf, and more information, when it was presented to the board had an opportunity to review both and actually determined that the best purchase would be of hybrid buses rather than the diesel buses that the committee had recommended. And I thought it was important to know that our input really informs staff. I mean, that's part of why we get these presentations. Really informs staff so that they can carry that information forward and then by doing so inform the board as well as the board agenda, including an opportunity for me to speak on our behalf. So the work that you guys are doing is so important and just much appreciated that you take the time to be here and really give us that input and feedback on the agenda items that are being presented. So thank you for that very much. I wanted to just take a minute and kind of remind everybody of some of the things that we have really accomplished in 2014 and 2015. In addition to just that important input, we actually took some action as a committee, and we were instrumental in creating the homeless initiative that the staff has put together, the database and the interactive guide that they have put together that the homeless can find resources in the area. And I think, Terry, does everybody have a copy of this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. The Rider Code of Conduct, I think, is very important. There was a lot of work done on that, both on staff's part and on ours, to really bring that up to a standard that would make us more comfortable and feel, I think, safer riding the bus. And also the appeals process for riders when they have been excused from riding the bus and are able to return and feel ready to return. So we've really, I mean, that's quite a lot to accomplish as a committee and to really push forward. And I think that we've done some great work and really are carrying some exciting things away from this year. So thank you, Terry. So that's just, I just kind of wanted to thank everybody and tell you how much I appreciate what you've done. And I think we're ready to move on to the meeting minutes. Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes? Can I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion.
Awesome, that's fine.
I make a motion to approve.
Any discussion on the minutes?
Yeah.
No? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay, and then, I know you're still running in circles, are we able to go ahead and do the election of the officers?
I'll make the rest of it continue and I can
Okay, super. We are at that time of the year, we're in January, we will not be having a December meeting, only because of the holidays, so our next meeting is January 19th. At that point in time, we will be turning over the members, as we mentioned earlier, and losing some of our really awesome members and having new folks come in. I'm sure that will be contributing great things. So it is that time to elect new officers. Terry's going to hand out a ballot, and on the ballot, you'll have an opportunity to review it. It's the eligible track members only, so anyone who's outgoing or an alternate would not be eligible to sit for chair. So the ballot will contain your choices from those of us who are left that fit that role. So, and we're going to go ahead and move forward. If you want to just take a moment to fill out the ballot, we're going to go ahead and move forward. I think with Brad's presentation is ready, sir, to keep things rolling.
I will be your Jeopardy music. Please put this one out.
Can I ask a question on this?
Sure.
Who wants this, basically? You know, it's like, my question is, who wants to be chair, who
Well,
wants to be vice chair? I mean,
yeah, and as it says, after the vote, if somebody, how does she put it? The elected officers will then be asked if they'd like to accept or decline.
Right.
So
But, I mean, I'm wondering, even in terms of my vote, I'm not sure, I mean, do you want to continue to be chair? Should I be, you know,
I'm happy to, if you guys would like me to, I mean, that's entirely up to you.
and I don't know if anyone else wants to be vice chair. You know, if they would, I could vote for that. I mean, I would be happy to try for vice chair as well if somebody else doesn't want it. But I just wanted to, I want to vote appropriately, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So,
Well, the way we do it is we do it by total vote. So
sure,
total vote
but I mean, I didn't know how to vote, because I didn't know who wanted it. I want to vote for the people that want the position, not, you know, I mean, if someone else wants to be vice chair, I would like to vote for them as well. It's not,
So we to vote twice on this sheet?
No. No, the most votes will be offered to the chair, the second most votes will be offered to the vice chair, and, or who that person is. And then we will give those people an opportunity to accept or decline, and we'll go from there.
Do we have enough people here?
Well, I may wait a few more minutes for
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to select.
I didn't know if it fell under the, have to have a quorum or not.
We do have a quorum, Vivian.
We have a quorum, but it doesn't-
We have,
Okay.
but we might wait a few minutes to see if anybody else comes in and gives them a call. Yes,
Especially since we're extending.
absolutely, yes, of course. Mr. Miller?
Okay, while you contemplate that, this is a relatively quick action item for the committee. Again, I'm back here talking about a transportation alternative pilot program using taxi cabs and a transportation network company, otherwise known as Uber. But a little bit of change since I presented to you last month. Now we have much more specifics because we have agreements now with with Uber and 2 taxi cab companies, Yellow Cab and United Taxi. And we are expanding the program to 2 areas, East Lake, as I discussed with you before, and Pinellas Park. Now, just a quick run through again what the pilot program is, and we're hoping that you will take an action to recommend support for this to the PSTA board. In East Lake is now the largest neighborhood in Pinellas County without any public transit services, as we eliminated that low-performing route last month. So folks now will have 3 options in East Lake instead of a fixed route bus. Option A is something that exists today. It's called the East Lake Shuttle. That is a taxi ride through our DART contractor, which happens to be Yellow Cab, that you have to call a day ahead, but you can get a taxi ride from either this red dot on the map or this red dot, Tarpon Mall, or Shops at Boot Ranch, which is north of Oldsmar, where you can connect to regular PSTA buses at the bus stops of those locations. You can get a taxi ride with a day-ahead reservation for $225 anywhere within East Lake to or from one of those 2 locations. Option B, which will be the new program, will be a same-day taxi cab. We are not proposing to implement Uber in the East Lake area at this time, although we hopefully will show that that's a successful option in Pinellas Park and then expand it Uber in the future. But in East Lake, we'll have a new option, which will be a same-day taxi cab service. And what that will be, instead of a fixed $225 fare, that will be $3 off whatever the metered rate on the taxi cab fare would be. So you can either call United Cab or Yellow, the telephone number, or both of them will have apps on smartphones where you can just press the button and then you can get a taxi cab ride. Again, only to or from these 2 locations anywhere in East Lake, and PSTA during the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday will provide a $3 discount same day. If you want to make a reservation in advance, it'll be $225. In Pinellas Park, it's about basically the same. In this zone, which is darker shade, I couldn't get it less shade, was Chris. It's essentially west of I-275, west to the Pinellas Park border, which is 66th Street, in this rectangle. Anywhere in that location to our Pinellas Park Transit Center there off of US 19 at 70th Avenue North. Again, it's only for trips in this zone from anywhere in the rectangle, which is essentially Pinellas Park, but also includes the Lellman unincorporated Pinellas County community, or parts of it, to the Pinellas Park Transit Center, which, as you probably know, you can catch many PSTA routes to that location. For example, one of our major issues we've had is with the Mainlands community, which is just north on US 19, which is right up in here. The Mainlands has a bus service, Route 444, but it's relatively limited. They, of course, have a very good bus service, the Route 19, the US 19 bus, but it's basically very difficult or unappealing for them to cross the street to go south on US 19 from the Mainland. We do have the 444 that goes in there, but it's relatively limited. So this cab option, for example, might be a great option for folks in the Mainland. They can either take a same-day taxi or Uber and connect from the Mainland down to the Pinellas Park Transit Center, or they can go shopping at the Target right there, or they can take the Route 19 or 52, and they can take the Route 19 back home because it drops them off on the side of the road, the right side of the road. Again, Pinellas Park, both options are a $3 discount off of the cost of that trip. We've spoken with Uber, and the estimated average price of an Uber trip in this rectangle is about $7. So you subtract 3 off, and the average price would be about $4 on Uber. Of course, if you want to walk, if you can access the regular PSTA bus, then your price is only $225, or with a monthly pass, you can ride with that pass. But if you want to connect, and again, it's sort of helping folks get to access to the bus, you can get Uber for $4, and then the taxi will vary, but maybe a little bit more, but will be an option for people. Again, it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday.
Option A, what is that cost?
Like I said, it will vary depending on how long your trip is in this rectangle, but it'll probably be in the $6 to $7 range. Based on our discussions with the cabs about what they think their average.
And there will be some sort of a discount against that?
Up to a $3 discount.
Okay.
It'll be no less than $4. $4 would be the cheapest under each option, but PSTA will provide a discount of up to $3. PSTA is signing contracts with each of these companies, and where we've come to an agreement on a standard contract that treats the cab companies in the same way it treats Uber. And again, the reason we are doing this is we are trying to look to the future of transportation and be innovative in providing the best customer service we possibly can to all the citizens of Pinellas County. In the case of Eastlake, they don't have anything else, so we're looking for a solution for them. In Pinellas Park, we just went through a whole round of public input, including here at TRAC, where citizens came and were very concerned that even though we have pretty good bus service throughout that Pinellas Park, there are pockets or areas that are very difficult to walk either across US 19 or out to US 19 to catch that frequent service. So getting people to the Pinellas Park Transit Center, where then they have great access to the things, it's sort of this, they call it this first mile, last mile issue, where the first mile of your trip is difficult to make, but once you get onto the bus, then it's okay, or the last mile, and that's what this might provide. So with that, if you think this is a good idea, I would ask for your support in making this recommendation.
we
I
have a
move
second?
that we accept this.
Okay, great, Regina, and do we have a second on that?
I second.
Okay, any discussion? Vivian?
I just wanted to ask one thing, but basically the alternative for paratransit, for instance, me, would still be DART on this first mile, last mile?
That's essentially right. We are providing the ability to have same-day service on DART with an accessible vehicle in both these areas, similar to what we're proposing here. But that's essentially right. If you cannot access either the fixed route bus or these sedans, then we will have a care ride van.
At
Right.
the same, in other words, at the regular care ride fee, or is it going to be a lower fee?
It's going to be a different fee, Ross.
Sure. So basically, it's going to be, you'll have equivalent access to the same-day service if that's what you want. So if you're going to be paying, let's see, so we have $3 subsidized on the same-day service for using Yellow Cab.
It's
or TNC, right?
$350 under the new, in other words, it will be the new care ride rate, right?
So you have to kind of keep separate in your mind what
Well, I
DART is versus what this new program is.
Okay.
Okay, so DART's going to continue to operate as it is today, and it's not going to change. So DART will continue to operate wherever it is, including in the Pinellas Park area, just as our buses do. So for someone who wants to use the new service, who needs to be transported in a wheelchair, then they would call Care Ride. Care Ride would get there in the same amount of time and provide service for an equivalent fee that you would be paying.
I was thinking more about the East Lake.
And same thing there. The Care Ride will provide the same backup in that area.
To the, I'm going to call them the malls, for the
With the connection.
That's what it boils down. Okay.
Just for clarification, the subsidies are on each trip. In other words, a ride each way, those discounts
Yes.
apply?
Yes.
Okay, and then one other question was, in the agreement with Uber, was there any offsetting for, at certain times, they will increase the fares, their regular fares by 1.5 or 2 times? Is there anything in the contract that says if it's,
No.
if there's a bus person or rider?
I think we did ask. I don't think, at least in the case of East Lake, they've ever had a surge price because
Oh, I get
Uber
them all
is-
the time in Dunedin, so I'd be surprised if they don't have them in East Lake, yeah.
Dunedin, Palm Harbor is probably the most, Dunedin, Palm Harbor, it happens relatively frequently. It does happen, but the way the app is set up, Uber can provide the button for PSPA, but they cannot separate out that surge cost.
Okay, we can't.
So you still have to be aware of, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that that's understood and people are educated on that surge pricing. That'll be a big part of our responsibility.
And it'll tell you right on the app.
It does.
Right on
It
the
does, that's
You can't
right.
accept it without understanding, but
It's just, but we need to make
people need to
sure
know
we're
that
trying,
they-
exactly, we need to make sure that that's addressed when we're
If
marketing
they use
it.
and they're demanded there, they would create their own surcharge all the time. So,
They might, but I think the question was, well, if a lot of people use it, then it's going to create more surcharges. But we would think that there would be more demand, more Uber drivers will go to that area.
Actually, the surge charges are to get drivers on the road. It's when they don't have any drivers on the road that they put in the surge charges to try to get the drivers out. So it's not the users, it's not the number of people using it, it's the number of drivers on the street. Yeah, give them that. Yep.
I thought it was opposite downtown St. Pete, talking to the cab drivers on it. Weird.
Not with Uber, I mean, I don't know about cabs, but with Uber.
I mean, with
that's-
Uber
yeah,
drivers.
Yeah, that's what it's there for.
Number of drivers and the number of riders. There's an imbalance in there.
Right, exactly, that's a better way to put it, yeah. Okay, any other questions? Super. Weaver. We have a motion on the table to endorse this particular pilot program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you very much. All right, next we have,
I think that's a really good thing.
I think it's going to be fantastic, actually. We hope the pilot program will prove that out, absolutely.
Because if you've ever ridden that 444 in Pinellas Park, you know it's the most ridiculous ride there is, because it goes nowhere at the wrong time.
Well, this will offset some of that, hopefully. It goes nowhere at the absolutely wrong time. Next we have Cassandra giving us a presentation on the Central Avenue BRT federal application, bus rapid transit, and this is also an action item. Cassandra?
This is very exciting because now we're moving forward with one of our expansion projects that we've been talking about for a really long time. We've been talking about it for so long that we have lots of documents that say that it is an important project for the county, an important project for the region, connecting downtown St. Petersburg to the beaches. So we've been looking at this for a very long time through the Pinellas Major Investment Study from 2000, all the way down to our community bus plan and the long-range transportation plan. And this is the project, what it looks like. Like I mentioned, it connects downtown the beaches. We would have 15-minute frequency. It would generally travel in the Central Avenue major corridor, meaning it would go on First Avenue North and First Avenue South, and then take one of these branches that we'll have to do some further study on to determine which one we choose. But we have been looking at a 5 a.m. to midnight service, limited stop, B12 to 16 branded stations. This project is in our path forward. It is part of the incremental expansion of our path forward. It is on our legislative agenda. We also have the funding for the capital side, I'll get back to that in a minute, for this in our fiscal year 2016 budget. We've also been coordinating with the city of St. Petersburg on looking at, are there opportunities for technology improvements in the corridor to make the buses run faster, but also maybe some opportunities to have bus lanes. These would probably have to be shared with right turns or left turns, depending on which side of the road we use. But they're willing, right now, the city is willing to start to take a look at that. They've done some preliminary traffic studies on First Avenue North and First Avenue South, and they think that this is something that could be explored, something that's on the table. I'm going to get to the other two in just a minute because it's part of the next part of how we move this project forward. So as we sit right now, when we look at the capital funding needed for this project, it includes those station stops that I mentioned before, but also the vehicles to run the service. It comes to about $16.5 million is what we're estimating based on the service characteristics that we talked about before. So that would be, if we get 50% from the federal government, we can then split the other 50% with the state. So a $16 million project ends up costing PSCA $4 million because we have these other partnerships. But we have to go through the federal process in order to do that. And so they have a pool of money called the New Start Program, which is for projects just like this, that are major capital investments that involve a corridor, that are sometimes fixed highway and sometimes not. We are looking at the small start version of that. And so that means that we are asking for less than $75 million from the federal government. And from the previous slide, you saw that we're only asking for 8. But we have to go through their project, their process. The phase that we're asking for the decision today is to start what's called the project development phase. And this is where we take the concept that I showed you earlier on the map, and we drill down and get more detail. So we're going to look at all the potential impacts, the benefits to the neighborhoods and the traffic and the bugs and bunnies and all of those things that are involved in our environment, and put those in a document that complies with something called the National Environmental Policy Act. That gets us federal dollars, gets us eligible for federal dollars. We'll then also, in that project development phase, look at the engineering required for the project, and then also make sure that we're getting those financial commitments that we need in order to fill out all of those boxes to get the project funded. So we've been talking to the FTA, the Federal Transit Administration, about what does their timeline look like? What would be a suitable timeline, a suitable set of things that we need to do in that time frame? So what you're seeing is, after a couple of rounds of edits from them, which we still need to work on this a little bit with them, but we think that this will be the project schedule for the project if you recommend to the board and then the board agrees that we should apply to the Federal Transit Administration to enter project development. This is what we would do. So we've already adopted this as a priority, so that's done. We've already identified local commitments for funding. Later this year, we would prepare those elements after we talk to you all, talk to the board. We would prepare the elements to submit a letter to the FTA to ask permission to go into project development. At that point, the Federal Transit Administration has a 2-year clock that starts ticking once they say go. So if we give that application to them in early 2016, assuming they say you're ready to go into project development in the spring of 2016, we then have 2 years. 2 years to do what I talked about, the NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act, or the environmental clearance for that. The engineering, do a lot more data analysis about the ridership. What is that travel demand modeling? What is that going to show us in terms of where people are going to get on and off, what their behavior is going to be? But the most important piece of all of this is that public engagement and that agency coordination, making sure that we have stakeholders on board as we move this project forward. So that would start in the spring once they start the clock. We think that this is not a very complex project in the grand scheme of the projects that they see. So we don't necessarily feel like we need that 2-year clock. We think we can get it done in a year. Just as you saw from my very first slide, we've been talking about this project for a very long time. There are a lot of people who are all teed up to get involved really quickly and make sure that we have a good project that we would then submit to the Federal Transit Administration for helping us fund the capital side. So once we finish project development, we then go into a grant funding agreement. If all goes well, this is the time frame that we think we could have something operational. And again, this is a federal process, and this process takes a lot of time. If for some reason we were able to get all the local funding needed to fund the capital, we could expedite this by about 2 to 3 years. So an example of that is the Hart Metro Rapid, which was funded through their community investment tax, or their equivalent of the penny for Pinellas. The county gave Hart $40 million to do their Metro Rapid. They ended up spending about $30, and that was how they got that project up and running quickly. So all of those factors come into play, depending on what flavor of the money that you want to get. So what we're recommending as staff is that we go ahead and we enter that project development, because that is good due diligence no matter what happens. That is just good planning. So we are making the recommendation we go down the federal path, we enter project development, and take it from there. And so we're asking for your concurrence to take that to the board.
Any questions? Vivian?
If this is, okay, I understand, first and first, you're gonna run them on first and first. When are they gonna switch over to Central Avenue, at 58th Street or at the other bus, Grand Central? In other words, when is it gonna switch over to Central Avenue itself?
So that depends on that next phase. We would go through that discussion in the project development phase.
Yeah, as I said, I know that-
In previous studies, that switch back to central has happened much farther west.
Yeah, because, Central Avenue is so narrow, and,
Yeah.
with the go-rounds and things like that.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that we want to be on the First Avenue, because it allows us to have that
You got
travel
more,
time.
you got more
That's
space.
something, though, that will be determined.
That's
as
exactly
the
what-
phase goes through.
That's exactly what the project development process is all about. Yeah.
Anyone else? Do I hear a motion to approve that the staff take to the board that they begin project development on this federal path forward? Second? Gloria? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Issues with family or youth? You're still
I'll
up,
just
right?
keep standing. Yes.
She's the whole show
She
today.
is,
Brad gave us, we're
You
tag
all
teaming.
perfectly love mine.
That's right.
It's hard to say no to these, so.
I was having this thought today about how many projects have been on our list in planning for a really long time, and we've been working on them and working on them and working on them, and there's a lot of things that are coming to fruition here, and there's a lot of things that are sort of emerging as ready to go to the next step, and it's kind of very, very exciting right now, at least in the planning department. You're all very excited. So this is one more thing to be excited about. The redesign of our routes in downtown St. Petersburg. When we think about how we've been using Williams Park as the hub for downtown, we've been doing this for a very long time, as not just PSTA, but as the city system that was before PSTA, having buses around Williams Park so that people can connect. But there's been a movement for us to relocate from Williams Park that's been just as long, about just as long. And so it's how do we serve downtown in the best way possible, given how things have changed over the last 60 years. In the community bus plan, we talked about a countywide grid, going from that hub system to a countywide grid. And that really helps us be a little bit more efficient, and helps us get ready for system expansion. When we looked at going forward in 2015, we said we want to make sure that everything that we do is we're going to look at every single route and say, how can we be the most efficient with that route? And that's part of our customer-oriented service design. So I'm sure you're all familiar with this. This is what our routing looks like today. Every route that comes into downtown somehow gets to Williams Park, whether that is its ultimate destination or not. And so sometimes the routes get circuitous in order to get over to Williams Park. And it doesn't really serve the city as well as we could. We could serve the city better if we went to a grid. This allows for on-street transfers. It is a change in how we function in downtown, but it's also an elevation of the way that transit is put into the community and is part of the fabric of the community and the fabric of downtown. It expands the accessibility of the route to people, and in some cases, we've done a lot of analysis about transfers and how to make sure the right connections happen. This really gets people to their front door better. And we've shown you this before about our public workshops, and we had 7 public workshops over late October, early November. We have taken this presentation, bless you, to the City Council and talked to the City Council that was endorsed by the City Council to go to the grid network in downtown St. Petersburg. And then in February, and I'll get into this a little bit more, we'll start to see some new signs out there, getting prepared for the new system, removing the bus shelters from Williams Park, And then begin the new routing on February 14th, Sunday, February 14th, which is our normal service change. So we do that 3 times a year, happens on a Sunday, happens to be Valentine's Day. And then after that, we'll start to collect additional data about our boarding and start to add more amenities in throughout the downtown. So as I mentioned, we've had 7 public workshops, about 60 people attended, and we had some hosts that were very nice to us to allow us to use their facilities, and we're continuing to go out and talk to people as they ask us. So we have one that Bob is doing tonight, talking to one of the neighborhood associations. We got some feedback from those that we've incorporated in some of the changes as well. So these are some of the other presentations of this Magnolia Heights. That's nice. Happens tonight. There we go. And so we've been out and talking to them. Again, we've gotten a lot of positive comments from the business community. And the rider comments that we've gotten, the people who have attended our workshops have been very constructive about their comments. With one of the meetings that was in downtown St. Petersburg, we had a very large crowd, and they were very concerned about the circulators, Route 32, and a route change that we had made, and we made some adjustments based on their comments, making sure that they could get to the public, and make sure we get that. We've also asked people, what would you like to see improved? So we took the opportunity when we were out at the workshop to say, we have a small budget, $200,000 that we put into fiscal year 16 for route improvement. What would you like to see? Because we sat and looked at the data, and there were so many things that we could improve. We just wanted to know what people want. And so based on the comments that came back, we determined that Route 7 was most frequently mentioned as the single route that needed to be improved, other than the 32. And the Route 5 was the next most frequently mentioned. And nights and weekends seemed to prevail in terms of what people wanted to see. And we had asked, do you want to see early morning, late night, or weekend service? And it varied by route. They also wanted to make sure that when we go out to people, to talk to them and say, this is what is happening, this is where your Route 7 is going to go, this is how you connect to 4. So we really wanted that information to be very clear. And so we were working on some pieces for January and February to talk to people. And then there was also concern about making sure that there are comfortable wait areas. Again, we're going to look at the data, we're going to look at the spaces that we have, and put shelters and benches where we can do that, and then coordinate those with the other city investments that are happening, like their bike share program. So this is kind of exciting. It's sort of an interesting thing to work with our maintenance department, facilities maintenance department on, is at some point we have to move the shelters out of Williams Park. And there is an event, Localtopia, that is taking place on February 6th. So we worked backwards from that. We said, what would be the right thing to do, and how are we going to remove the shelters? So we're working with the city to do this in one shot. Do it overnight, where we would go out and remove the shelters, and then the city parks and Rec would come behind us and do any of the finishing work, so that it was the park was ready for Localtopia. That said, we would have temporary signs out, and talk to our transportation department about that, making sure that people knew where they could catch their buses until February 14th. And then on February 13th, those temporary signs would be taken up, and the permanent signs would be around. And this is very detailed about our ambassador program, but essentially we are going to go out about 3 weeks before the service change and have people with vests on, CSP vests, that can answer questions about the route change, making sure that we are capturing different times of the day, making sure we're capturing all the runs that we have. Now, so we won't be out there 24/7 every day over those 3 weeks. We're going to vary the time so that we can catch the majority of people. We're also having some operator training and making sure that the drivers can answer questions of the riders. But again, we're really trying to make sure that everybody who wants the information has somebody to talk to about it. We'll also be out the week after to answer questions and be available to people. So what will you see on February 14th? New routing in downtown. We'll have some service improvements on Sundays to the Route 5. This makes our Sunday service on the Route 5 equivalent to our Saturday service. We'll extend the evening service on the Route 7 and extend some service on the Route 22 so that it functions better with the closing of Tyrone Square Mall. People can use it for shopping or employment. You will see the new bus stops around downtown, and there will be some areas where we'll have to have that recovery area, and we're working with the city on where those would be. So you'll see buses all over the downtown, but not too many in any one place. Later in the spring, we'll have new shelters. We'll further investigate the downtown circulation and how all that works and all of our services that we have there, and look at an onboard survey for the restaurants. So we're asking for your approval of our plan to move forward. We'll present this to the board at their meeting on December 9th.
Questions?
Got a comment. First of all, I would love to volunteer to wear one of those vests and explain to people what's going on, because I have a constituency down there. And so if you cut down a tree and you build a barn, the owls or the birds who tended to be in that tree will be in that barn because of the proximity. And I'm just going to tell you, okay, I work for lawyers, all right, and I work for lawyers who are interested in homelessness, and I know homelessness is kind of like the 2,000-pound elephant in the room, okay? So what's going to happen to these people? And I assure you that a physical object must occupy a physical space. And so when these people get run out of Williams Park, and I don't blame PSDA, and I'm all for modernization of our local transportation system, and I'm excited about it. But I think that the city, okay, who has been sued several times about a criminalization of homelessness, and the Department of Justice recently, was a friend of the court, filed a brief as a friend of the court in a case in Boise, Idaho, with the notion, the case was prosecuted by the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty, of which I happen to be a board member. But the Justice Department said that criminalizing homelessness and depriving people of life-sustaining activities, such as resting, sleeping, making people walk distances and strolling people out, and denying people shelter from the rain, which the bus shelters, it's like inadvertently provide, like the bar with the owls and stuff like that. It is actually a constitutional violation of their Eighth Amendment rights. And so I don't want PSDA to get caught up in it's like a scrum, which is going to be, and I'm just going to tell you, because my firm has, ordered me or mandated me to go around and, see who's affected and where will they go, if, it's like the bus shelters are removed from Williams Park. I would think that we, okay, could, basically, put something out there to the city. Because as I said, a physical object must occupy a physical space, for kind of like a day room somewhere where people could go. All right, I mean, that could be a suggestion where people could go. It's like a day room to still get the essential goods and services that they get when advocates and members of the continuum of care come out into the park, and the food and everything else. And so if you disperse the people and you scatter them, where are they going to go to get these services? And that will perpetuate homelessness rather than, it's like end it. And
I'm just trying to understand, GW, wouldn't that be more of the city's responsibility to
Well,
undertake that than the PSTA?
we're involved. I mean, can you separate yourself from the city here when you move the bus shelters up? And I'm just saying, it's like or just say, look, it's the city, it's not us. The city is going to have to come up with something. But it's like, say something, do something just for PR. That's why I said I would be the first one to grab the vest and go out there, okay? Because it's like I stand with PSDA, and it's like I've seen over the years that I've been privileged enough to be on this board, the progress that's being made, But this, I feel, is kind of a setback, and it's a sticky situation, and the city knows darn well. I'm just telling you, they know. Okay, they know what they're doing, and they're probably trying to hide behind you. So, having said that, I'll vote no with a contingency that it's like we have to get something going, and I'm willing to come out here. It's like 2 or 3 times a week to meet with people to put our heads together. But I'm going to vote no.
Vivian?
Are they basically going to be, because I was at the Sunshine Center when they had it, are they basically going to leave 32 where they're going to have better, at least the same degree of access into the Publix, into that mall, or that mini mall, whatever we want to call
Yes,
it?
the route will change, but the access to
In other
Publix
words,
will
they won't have to, with their shopping carts, they're not going to have to walk 2 blocks, where now they can get off and on in front of it. So as I said, so the 32 is going to change a little bit differently from what it is now, but not as much as
We
the
made
earlier
an adjustment to our proposal based on that
Okay,
meeting.
and when are the new schedules and routes going to be available? The printed copies?
Yeah, they're working on those right now, and we have a plan for distribution. So I'll know
In other
that.
words, what's the estimated date for?
Well, we don't want to put them out too soon so people don't get confused
Yeah, I
about,
understand that.
which one. But we do have, probably that week of the
Yeah.
service change, we'll be ready to put those out.
My...
We'll have a brochure that we will hand out during our ambassadors. We're working on a brochure that details the changes, which are different than the schedule. So
Yeah.
people will get the information about the change before the actual schedule.
Yeah, I understand that. My main thing is with the time points, if you don't have solid time points, that's where people have to make their connections.
Mhm.
You can estimate what time the bus is going to get there, but where you've got a time point, it's supposed to be there at that time. And if it gets there earlier, it's going to wait until the end of their time point is. So as I said, and that's the biggest thing with trying to make connections. In other words, I tend to make connections at shelter or at places that have time points, because I know that's what time reasonably that the bus is going to be there.
Mhm.
But if you're talking about making a connection someplace else, you're not quite sure what time either bus is going to get there. It's a guesstimate. It's a rough estimate.
Just a quick side note, I'm assuming it's all found online.
All the changes.
Yeah, so
yes.
you'll just have a website that people, that kids can go to, or, all right, that's all. That's great.
Because, you know, the only bus stop that you absolutely know are the time points.
Right.
The other ones, as I say, it's a rough estimate.
Well, I think this is.
And if one bus is late,
We've
I think
done
this
some
is gonna be-
significant analysis
Yeah.
on this
You know.
and looked at those routes that require the connection, and our scheduling department is working very hard to make sure that that's.
Thank you, Cassandra. Any other questions? Do I hear a motion to endorse this grid system change to Williams Park?
I motion to endorse.
Catherine, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. That pretty much wraps things up.
I'll go ahead and
Terry's
collect the
gonna-
ballot.
I was trying to say Terry's going to
While
grab
you
the ballot.
review future subjects.
Oh, yes, let's talk about future subjects or something like that. Actually, you know what I would like to do as much as anything is acknowledge that the chairman of the PSTA board, Mr. Johnson, is here today, as he is almost every meeting, and we very much appreciate the time that he takes to attend. Is there anything you would like to?
Once again, and I'm getting toward the end of my chairmanship, I think, so I'd like to once again thank you all for your attendance, but more for your interaction and your observations, because that really assists us. And I personally thank you. I don't get a chance to ride as often as you folks do. And you tell us when you see something out there that is of concern to you. So thank you for being here and being out there in our eyes and ears. And I think you're probably also our ambassadors out there. We're talking to other riders. Riders tend to have friends on the buses they generally ride. So you're helping to broadcast information, and I think that is also a very valuable function of the track.
If you tell somebody on the bus that you're a member of the track committee, they really pay attention to
Boy,
what
do
you
they-
have to say.
Oh, yeah.
They
And
really
boy,
do.
do they tell you what they want, too.
Yeah, they do. They do, but it gets
Well,
a reaction.
I occasionally ride the buses, and they just give me
They
ideas.
don't hesitate,
Yeah.
they don't hesitate to
But they
say.
also give me a lot of good
Yeah,
information.
absolutely,
Like I've ridden the 444 on, I think, 3 occasions now, just to understand how it works and your comment that it, what? It goes absolutely nowhere at the wrong time. It's correct.
Great quote.
Are you ready?
Do we need a drum roll or something?
Well, before this, maybe there was some ink jazz coming. So, you have nominated for chair of the track committee, Ms. Elaine Mann. So, Terry, now we're supposed to ask Chair if she would be willing to.
Please,
Okay.
and thank you.
And then the nominated vice chair is Gloria.
Oh, good, I wrote it down. Thank you. I love that.
So,
Awesome.
if you volunteer for somebody, you just want to get it.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
Gloria, do you accept?
I do accept, yeah.
Super,
Good, thank you.
Good.
Mr. Miller, do you have any other comments to add?
No, I'm very thankful for all of you, and best of luck to Eugene Morris.
Absolutely, and happy holidays to everybody, because we won't be making it.
Yeah, that's right, see you next year, that's right.
Yeah, all right, well, with that, I think we're adjourned.
Pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, we're done. Yeah, see the plaque they gave us?
Okay, good, I was concerned, you just hadn't gotten the resolution.
Yes, but it isn't working at the moment.
How's that, Larry?
Huh? haven't had a computer.
Oh, no wonder.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna change.
You'll probably get like 100.
Probably will. Just like I was in fourth. Just like I was in fourth.
You are, and you were. Oh, you, did they know? They still don't know. They mention it to you.
They had a committee meeting and appointed people for that.
You have a control thought.
Of course.
Those are a lot of vacant buildings.